Spain is dramatically tightening security around its North African enclave of Ceuta after social media messages appeared to encourage another mass attempt to cross the border from Morocco. The warnings have raised fears that the extraordinary migration crisis that overwhelmed the Spanish territory in late July could happen again. The latest developments have placed both Spain and Morocco on heightened alert. Spanish soldiers and police have increased patrols inside Ceuta, while Morocco has deployed additional security forces around the city of Fnidaq, the Moroccan community directly across the border. Moroccan authorities have also been monitoring online communications and moving to stop migrants from reaching the border area. The situation demonstrates how quickly social media rumors can transform into a real-world security crisis, and how vulnerable Ceuta remains because of its unique geographical position. According to Reuters, Moroccan authorities arrested at least 111 people as they attempted to move towards Ceuta amid heightened security. The arrests included 109 migrants from sub-Saharan Africa and 2 Moroccan citizens. The arrests came only about 2 weeks after an enormous migration surge, in which more than 72,000 migrants entered or attempted to enter Ceuta, according to Reuters. At least 96 people died during that crisis, making the latest calls for another mass crossing especially alarming.
Adventure starts with the right gear, and it all starts at shackshop.us. From stylish women's swimsuits and premium camping tents to paddleboards, underwater drones, and dependable dinghies, we have everything you need for your next outdoor adventure. Whether you're exploring the water or relaxing on shore, gear up with quality products at unbeatable prices. Visit shackshop.us today and make every adventure.
A border unlike any other Ceuta is not simply another European border town. The Spanish territory sits on the northern coast of Africa, surrounded almost entirely by Morocco and separated from mainland Spain by the Mediterranean Sea. Together with Spain's other North African enclave, Melilla, Ceuta represents the European Union's only land borders with Africa. That makes Ceuta strategically important, but also extremely vulnerable to sudden migration pressure. For migrants in Morocco and elsewhere in Africa, reaching Ceuta can represent a potential pathway into the European Union. For Spain, however, the territory is an international frontier that must be protected. That conflict between migration aspirations and border enforcement has repeatedly turned Ceuta into a flashpoint. The latest crisis began with messages circulating online suggesting that Spain's border might somehow be open or easier to cross. False information spread rapidly, encouraging large numbers of people to head toward the territory. The result was chaos. Migrants attempted to reach Ceuta by land and sea. Some entered by climbing or bypassing border barriers, while others attempted dangerous crossings through the water. The sheer scale overwhelmed local authorities. Now Spanish officials are determined not to allow history to repeat itself. Spain brings in more security. Madrid has significantly reinforced Ceuta's defenses. Reuters reports that Spain has installed a maritime barrier and brought in more than 500 additional police officers from mainland Spain. The total security presence in Ceuta has risen above 1,600 personnel. Spanish soldiers have also been seen guarding locations inside the city, including commercial areas, while police have increased patrols on major streets. The objective is straightforward: prevent another mass movement from reaching the border before it becomes impossible to control. Spanish Interior Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska has said the additional personnel will remain as long as necessary. The message from Madrid is that the government intends to restore normal conditions while preventing another event on the scale of July 30. Spain's Defense Minister Margarita Robles has also warned that another mass entry attempt would not be treated casually. Spanish authorities have emphasized that the border is closed and that people attempting to enter illegally should not believe online claims promising an easy route into Spain. The Civil Guard has even used social media to warn potential migrants that new containment barriers have been installed and that people who cross illegally can be returned. That is an important part of the new strategy. Authorities are no longer dealing only with people physically approaching a border. They are also fighting a battle over information. Morocco moves to block the rush before it starts. Morocco has responded with its own security operation. Officials in Rabat said they were monitoring social media posts and messages of unknown origin calling for another mass crossing on August 15. Moroccan authorities warned that organizers and participants could face prosecution. Security forces have increased patrols around Fnidak and the surrounding region. Police checkpoints have appeared on roads leading toward the border, while security forces have attempted to prevent migrants from traveling north towards Ceuta. Reuters reported that authorities prevented some groups from boarding trains and buses heading toward northern Morocco from cities including Casablanca, Fez, and Kenitra. At the same time, some migrants reportedly attempted to bypass checkpoints by using mountain routes. That illustrates the difficulty Morocco faces. Stopping thousands of people from reaching a particular border crossing is considerably easier when the authorities know where they are coming from. But when migrants can move through remote areas, travel on foot, or use alternate routes, security forces have to cover a much larger area. Morocco has therefore moved aggressively to prevent another mass gathering. Associated Press also reported that Moroccan authorities had intensified security around both Ceuta and Melilla after online messages encouraged new crossings. Officials said they had taken necessary measures to prevent illegal attempts. The human cost behind the security operation is a much more complicated human story. The people attempting to reach Ceuta are not simply numbers on a police report. Many are young men seeking economic opportunities, while others are migrants who have traveled long distances through Africa, hoping to eventually reach Europe. The previous mass crossing demonstrated just how dangerous the journey can become. At least 80 people died according to official figures cited by the Associated Press, while Reuters reported at least 96 deaths. Human rights organizations have reported higher numbers. Some of those who survived the previous attempt are now warning others not to repeat their journey. One young man interviewed by Reuters described swimming for hours to reach Ceuta and urged other potential migrants not to attempt the crossing. His message was blunt: the journey is dangerous and reaching Ceuta does not guarantee a better life. Another young migrant said that people were organizing around particular dates and attempting to cross together because they believed strength in numbers would improve their chances. That creates an enormous challenge for authorities. A single person attempting to cross a border can be stopped relatively easily. Tens of thousands arriving at once create an entirely different situation. The power and danger of social media. Perhaps the most significant lesson from the Ceuta crisis is the role of social media. A rumor does not need to be true to influence thousands of people. If enough people believe a border is open, they may begin moving toward it. Once large groups start traveling, videos and photographs can encourage even more people to join. This creates a feedback loop. One person posts a video. Another person shares it. Hundreds see it. Thousands believe it. Suddenly, an online rumor becomes a physical movement of people. Authorities in both Spain and Morocco are now trying to interrupt that process before it reaches the border. Moroccan officials have specifically said they are monitoring online messages and have indicated that people involved in organizing or inciting illegal crossings could face prosecution. That raises an important question for governments around the world. How should authorities respond when social media becomes the organizing mechanism for a mass movement? The issue is particularly complicated because legitimate speech, political criticism, misinformation, criminal coordination, and calls for illegal activity can overlap. Governments must determine where legitimate expression ends and deliberate incitement begins. Thousands still remain in Ceuta. The consequences of the previous surge have not disappeared. Reuters reported that approximately 5,000 migrants remained in Ceuta after the July crisis. Some were living in makeshift shelters, including areas around El Trampolin Beach. That creates another problem for the Spanish government. Even after the border itself is secured, authorities must determine what happens to people who have already entered. Spanish Interior Minister Grand Marlaska has said migrants who entered irregularly would not be permitted to remain in Ceuta or automatically travel to mainland Spain. Exceptions could apply in cases involving extreme vulnerability. Those decisions can become particularly complicated when unaccompanied minors are involved. Spain has obligations under domestic and European law, while also attempting to maintain control of its borders. That tension is unlikely to disappear anytime soon. A bigger European problem, the Ceuta crisis, is not only a Spanish or Moroccan issue. It is a European problem. Ceuta is part of Spain and therefore sits at one of the European Union's most sensitive external borders. The July migration surge already produced political repercussions across Europe and intensified arguments over immigration policy. For governments worried about uncontrolled migration, Ceuta is a warning about what can happen when a border suddenly experiences an overwhelming surge. For humanitarian organizations, the deaths are evidence of the dangers created when migrants have few safe or legal alternatives. For Spain, the challenge is finding a balance between humanitarian obligations and the basic responsibility of controlling its sovereign territory. And for Morocco, the situation is also politically sensitive. Morocco has a complicated relationship with Spain. The two countries cooperate extensively on security and migration, but disputes can emerge quickly when border pressure increases. The current cooperation suggests that neither government wants another July-style breakdown. What happens next? For now, the immediate second-wave threat appears to have been substantially contained by the security response. Moroccan forces moved against groups heading toward Fnidak, while Spanish authorities reinforced Ceuta. But the underlying causes have not disappeared. Economic hardship remains. Migration networks remain. Social media misinformation remains. And Ceuta remains geographically positioned at one of Europe's most sensitive points. That means another rumor could potentially create another crisis. The real test for Spain and Morocco will therefore be whether they can prevent the next mass movement before thousands of people reach the border. The events of July showed how quickly circumstances can change. One moment, Ceuta was functioning as a relatively quiet Spanish city on the African coast. The next, thousands of people were attempting to enter, security forces were overwhelmed, emergency services were dealing with casualties, and governments across Europe were debating the consequences. Now the fences are reinforced, maritime barriers have been added, soldiers are visible on the streets, and Morocco is watching the roads leading toward the border. The message from both countries is unmistakable: the border will not simply be opened by a social media post. But the fact that authorities have had to mobilize so heavily shows how serious the underlying problem has become. Ceuta has once again become a symbol of Europe's complicated migration debate. It is a border between continents, a gateway many migrants see as a path toward a new life, and a frontier Spain insists must remain under its control. The immediate crisis may be contained. The larger debate, however, is far from over. As long as people believe that crossing into Ceuta offers their best chance for a future in Europe, and as long as social media can mobilize thousands with a few viral messages, the possibility of another border confrontation will remain. For Spain and Morocco, the goal now is preventing another tragedy. For Europe, the bigger question is whether it can develop a migration system that protects its borders, while also addressing the desperate circumstances driving people toward them. The answer will likely determine whether Ceuta remains a temporary flashpoint or becomes one of the defining migration battlegrounds between Europe and Africa.